The ONEXPLAYER X1 is billed as a 3-in-1 handheld, tablet, laptop and gaming handheld with detachable controllers. In our review, let's check out the Intel Ultra 7 model and see how it compares with its AMD Ryzen counterparts, as well as with the One X GPU. First out of the box we have a user guide which is in Chinese and English. Next we have the X1 itself. We will show it in more detail in a moment. Inside the box is a charger and USB cable. We will include the correct adapter for your country. The ONEXPLAYER X1 has separately purchased controllers that attach to each side of the X1. Unfortunately, they were not available at the time of review, but we will check them out in a separate video once we get our hands on them. Also available separately is a portable keyboard which transforms the X1 into a laptop. The ONEXPLAYER X1 measures around 9.9 by 6.4 by 0.52 inches and weighs around 789 grams without the controllers. The 10.95 inch display is a LTPS touchscreen and supports up to 2560 by 1600 resolution at 120Hz refresh rate. Just above the display is an AI camera which supports facial recognition for Windows Hello. On the left side we have two USB 4 ports to connect the power and high-speed peripherals too. Below is a removable cover which reveals the connector for the left side of the controller. The right side has a USB 3.2 port and micro SD card slot, and another cover for the right side of the controller. The top from left to right has a power button with fingerprint sensor, followed by the volume buttons. There's another cover which reveals a 3.5mm audio port and OcuLink port to connect an external eGPU to. And there is a button which brings up the ONEXPLAYER overlay and software. The bottom has a pogo pin design with magnets which you can use to connect and secure the keyboard to. There's a back cover included which helps protect from scratches and also has a built-in stand if you want to place it on a desktop for example. The portable keyboard, available separately, attaches to the underside of the X1. Once it's attached, it won't accidentally become loose. The keys are nicely sized and very low profile, making it fast and easy to type on. Apart from some initial getting used to a new keyboard, I found the keys easy to press and intuitive after a short while using it. One minor annoyance is there's no magnets to keep the keyboard closed when not in use. The ONEXPLAYER X1 will be available in two models. The first, which we are showing today, has the Intel Core Ultra 7 155H processor with a total of 16 cores and 22 threads, running up to 4.9 GHz at 28 watts TDP. The second model has an Intel Ultra 5 125H processor, which has a total of 14 cores and 18 threads running up to 4.5 GHz, also at 28 watts TDP. For RAM, the Ultra 5 comes with 16 gigs and the Ultra 7 model has a choice of 32 or 64 gigs of LPDDR5x RAM. And for storage, there is up to 4TB of PCIe 4 M.2 SSD. For communications, there's Wi-Fi 6E and Bluetooth 5.2. Powering it all is a 16,890 mAh battery. In our tests running Cinebench multi-core benchmark on a loop, we got 1 hour 50 minutes. Very good compared to the AMD handhelds, which are usually around 1 hour 15. In our fan noise and temperature test whilst running Cinebench, we got a highest fan noise of 61 decibels and highest temperature of 59 degrees centigrade. Our first test is PC Mark, which runs a series of tests across different usages such as web browsing, video conferencing, working with large office documents and image rendering. We got a score of 6079, which is overall quite good, only beaten by the ROG Ally and GPD Win 4 2023 models. The other devices have a noticeable lower difference in performance. The Cinebench benchmark tests the CPU's single and multi-core performance. We get scores of 1766 and 11,275 for single and multi-core performance. It just about takes first place for single core performance, with the ROG Ally in second place. However, for multi-core performance we see the tables turned, with second from bottom place in performance. For 3D Mark, we are running the usual TimeSpy, Night Raid and Firestrike benchmarks. The X1 takes the lead in the TimeSpy benchmarks with 3790. We see the AMD 7000 devices are around several hundred points behind here, but in the Night Raid and Firestrike tests we see the X1 fall behind in both tests. We are running Forza Horizon 5 on the very low graphics settings. We know from previous benchmarks that AMD processors generally outperform the Intel ones on this game. We can see that the pattern continues with the X1 trailing behind across the benchmarks. While we do get over 60 FPS at 720p, 15 watts TDP and above, we see that the AMD models have vastly higher scores. In our Shadow of the Tomb Raider benchmark test, we are running on the lowest graphic settings. We see a generally closer gap than before between the Intel X1 and AMD based devices, but the lead belongs to AMD again. Even the Steam Deck was performing better than the X1. In our Street Fighter 6 benchmark at 1080p maximum graphic settings, we see a close range of frames per second. It does manage to stay fairly close to its AMD rivals, but nothing that puts it in the lead. As the X1 has OcuLink, we can also test the performance with the ONEXPLAYER X1 GPU, but you could also use the GBD-G1 eGPU as they have roughly the same performance. The combination of X1 and ONEX GPU work very well together. We can see from the on-screen charts that with an eGPU it brings it up closer to the performance levels of an AMD based handheld with an eGPU. There's not much difference between them when the integrated GPU is not used. We could definitely put some lack of performance down to graphics drivers. Intel's drivers are in the early stages for the Ultra 5 and 7 processors, and we did see some differences, both good and bad, when compared to when we tried the X1 last month with older drivers. We saw the same initial performance issues for the AMD 6 and 7000 processors when they first launched, and they increased in performance over time. However, I don't think the Ultra 7 will reach the stage where it will beat the AMD 7000 series. We have a few games we have picked at random and will show some gameplay including the audio. We will add some notes on screen for the settings used.
Ahti the janitor is a friendly face in my book. This seal. I saw it a long time ago. I keep seeing it in my dreams.
As a 3-in-1 based device, we can't directly compare to the dedicated handheld gaming PCs, as this is more of a hybrid, especially without the controllers. But we can compare the performance, which the AMD based devices generally outperform in most areas. The only real win for the X1 was the battery life, where we saw nearly 2 hours on Cinebench compared to usually around 60 to 75 minutes on the AMD based devices. With an eGPU we see very good performance once the underperforming integrated GPU is out of the picture. If an eGPU is part of your plans or you already own one, then it makes the X1 much more tempting. The ONEXPLAYER X1 does have the benefit of the massive 10.95 inch display. I had a mouse and the portable keyboard plugged in, and you can use it like a mini desktop. Unlike other smaller handhelds, there's no need to resort to a monitor. With the ONEXPLAYER controllers, or even your own controller, you can sit back and play it on this display on the table, for example. It is just that bit more comfortable than being up very close to a small screen handheld whilst using an external controller. We will have to wait and see how it plays and feels with the official controllers attached. The X1 will be the largest handheld with controllers we will have tried, and it might be a little too big and heavy to be comfortable. Let us know what you think of the X1 in the comments. Would you choose Intel over AMD for a handheld? Do you prefer small or large handhelds? You can learn more about the ONEXPLAYER X1 and order yours today from DroiX.co.uk or DroiX.net for worldwide shipping. That wraps up our review of the ONEXPLAYER X1. Please do take a moment to subscribe so you do not miss out on our next video. Thanks for watching, and we will see you back in our next one.